Hello YouTube, quick reminder before we start, I stream around 4 days a week on Twitch, so if you want to ask me any questions or just support me even further, be sure to stop by. I'll have the link in the description below. Now let's begin. So as you guys know, mechanics aren't the most important part of Fortnite, especially in comp, but it is still very important to keep it up to a certain level, as the average mechanical skill of players are increasing every day. So I thought I'd give you guys 4 tips that really helped me out when I was working on my mechanics. First tip is kind of 2 tips in one, but it is to turn off edit on release, and I'll explain why in a second, but to also practice those long edit tunnels with the same build piece. So the reason why you want to specifically practice the long same build piece edit tunnels is because the only two other options to practice edit speed is either to free build a lot or do edit courses. So the issue with free building is that when you're free building, you kind of get carried away with doing fancy builds and retakes, and your main priority isn't edit practice. And usually every 3 to 5 builds you place, you do one edit. So for example, if you spend 30 minutes free building, you'd only get about 5 minutes of raw edit practice and 25 minutes of building practice, which can be a good thing if you're trying to get better at building. But our main goal in this exercise is to work out your edit speed and edit timing, not your ability to build. And the problem with edit courses is that you're editing pre-built builds, and I get that these edit tunnels also have pre-built builds, but unlike the edit courses, these ones just have one specific build type, and there are multiple builds where there usually only be one in normal edit maps. And the edit tunnels help you with edit timing, which is arguably the most important part of editing fast, because editing fast requires you to instantly select the build piece and to be able to do them consistently, which this map offers. Alright, so the reason why you want to have edit on release off is because of 3 reasons. The first reason is tracking through walls. The second reason is aim and crosshair placement. And the third reason is consistency. So let's start off with tracking through walls. So if you watch any pro player, like any good W keyer like Day or Clicks or like any other good W keyer, you'll see they always like to track people through walls for information, right? So they always like when it's lower, better example, you can see more through walls, right? So with edit on release on, you see these tiny little gaps. You can actually like pay attention to these more compared to if you do this. You can actually see more through these walls. Of course, it won't matter as much, but like you can still gain some information here. And let's imagine this is a box right here. You can see way more, and you can predict their movements through this wall a lot better. Like if they're moving to the left, or if they're about to pick us to the left, or they're about to do this play, you can see a lot more without on release on instead of off. Let me give you an example. Let me just turn this on real quick. If I can find it right here. Okay, so on release on. So if I do this, I'm I'm watching up here, right? So obviously from this angle you cannot see it. You can barely see anything through these cracks. Okay. So if I do this, I can barely see it. But like, usually you're gonna be looking up here, so you can barely see anything. Or like if you're just trying to do this, you can like barely see anything, right? Also, you're instantly confirming the edit without thinking, right? Because when you have edit on release on, your first instinct is to just let go of the edit of like the mask, like wherever you used to select your builds, right? And you stop worrying altogether about what the opponent is doing, because your main priority is just to do the edit fast and flick. Because with edit on release off, I'll get to this in a sec, but your crosshair placement gets thrown off. So usually players with this will subconsciously have like the instinct of instantly confirming as fast as they can and go for the flick instead of thinking about what they're doing and if they could position themselves better. Like for example, if they're here, they just gotta confirm, then they move to the left. In the split second, the opponent could easily shoot if they're just like tracking you through the wall like this, if they're just crosshairing, you know? So it always matters the milliseconds of information you give them versus they give you, okay? Alright, so the second reason why you wanna have add-on release off is because of track. Never mind. 3, 2, 1, let's begin. Alright, so the second reason why you want to have add-on release off is because of your aim and crosshair placement. So I'll give you an example. I kind of touched on this in the previous example of tracking through walls, but aiming is kind of different because you don't have to roll in information as much, because if you know they're here and you have this cone, or Let's do this actually. It's a better example. You do a Mongol a classic and reset this wall, so they're stuck here. You know for a fact that they're either hugging this wall or they're hugging the ramp. So you know they're between here, okay? So you don't really have to track as much. What you can do with add-on release off is you can edit and not confirm right away, and you can look through these like tiny little gaps, or just use your prediction skills and just pay attention and aim your crosshair towards head level, like about this high, right? Like towards E or like let's go a bit farther, yeah, like here, right? So about 2-3 meters away from the wall, aim towards the edit button. That would be head level, right? So you can basically aim towards head level through the wall beforehand, or you can position yourself better, like if you're here, right? Then you can go here and aim towards the head level. Then you can confirm that like this to make a really good peak compared to if I do this. If I turn it on release on. This happens if I'm here. I'm trying to track them through the wall, but then this happens, right? Since you're resetting right away, or you're confirming right away actually. Um, so it doesn't give you time to move. If you do move, you're gonna have to do this, which is really awkward and clunky. And your aim, notice your crosshair is all the way up here, right? If I try to go towards head level, this happens again. So what you kind of have to do with item release on is you're gonna have to edit right away, and you're gonna consistently have to make this flick over and over again, right? I know it seems like a super easy flick. It's like about here to here, like a very easy flick, you know? Very easy flick, but sometimes if you're nervous in like a 1v1 situation, like endgame, or it's not really consistent to rely on flicks like that. So in my opinion, you should just rely on like better peaks and all that to give you better shots, you shouldn't really. If you watch me spam my mouse button right now, as you can see, my mouse is kind of moving, right? Because if you spam your mouse button really hard to just do a bunch of edits super fast, your mouse actually moves because your mouse is in charge of not only doing the main thing, like just pressing the thing down, but um, it also is in charge of moving around. So if you spam it too much, it can actually cause your aim to get really inconsistent compared to having your confirm button on your keyboard, like at least off, when you have to double tap your E or whatever you use to edit, is because your keyboard button, you don't really, it doesn't really affect other keys if you spam one key a lot, and your keyboard doesn't really move. And generally, in gaming keyboards versus gaming keyboards are a lot more responsive compared to mouses, and mouses are more advertised for their speed and accuracy compared to keyboards. They're really just advertised for their actuation point. So your keyboard is generally better if you're trying to look for accuracy and consistency, and especially in comp where you can't really mess up edits, especially if you're like stuck in zone or anything important like that. So I generally recommend just to keep your thing consistent and not to mess up. In clutch situations, have it off. Alright, so the second tip is to learn one new retake slash gimmick slash trick every 2 to 3 days, because that's a sweet spot for you to at least get the hang of the technique and to be able to use it correctly. And the reason why you want to learn one new technique every couple of days is because it'll help you constantly learn new combinations of inputs inside of the game, and it'll help you become a more adaptable and more confident player that will never be clueless of what they can do within a fight. This is one example of a trick that I learned. It's basically that you want to edit a door behind you, and then you can actually use the door behind you to jump up and use as a ramp. One quick little bonus tip that can help you with this is to look for techniques in the general area where you are bad at. This will create a balanced improvement curve of both your strengths and your weaknesses. For example, if you're really bad at editing while you're jumping midair, then go look at Face Way's retakes from a year or two ago when that was his main playstyle. Basically, what I'm trying to say is look for your obvious flaws and look at a player who is very strong at that one specific playstyle and then replicate their gameplay. Heck, this can even be your friend's gameplay. Just look for anyone with who is really good at that one playstyle that you are bad at. One example of this is after Mongrel got dropped from Tayson after Season 4, Chapter 2, and after doing bad in tournaments for a long time after that, he decided to switch things up and learn the IGL role. And even though he never made it back to his peak, he has recently been doing pretty well after taking a break. This is kind of bonus tip, but bouncing off what I just said, taking regular breaks is a very crucial part of competitive Fortnite, and if you don't take any breaks and just play all day, you will very quickly get tilted and burned out. I can't tell you how much times I've seen people play this game all day without taking breaks for months on end, and eventually they get so fed up that they quit the game altogether. So once again, breaks are a very crucial part of competitive Fortnite, and you should really take them seriously. Some things you can do if you're noticing that you're getting tired or tilted but still don't want to take a break is to either VOD review your deaths and look from the enemy's POV or to free build. VOD reviewing your deaths every chance you get is a great way to notice what things you are struggling at, and afterwards you can go fix them in creative or arena. Free building can also be a great way to relax and burn off some steam, especially since you're physically doing something within the game and you aren't just sitting there and not playing. Though I still do recommend the first option since it provides more long term improvements, and it is also better to get rid of all your bad habits instead of building good new habits. Well, that wraps up the video. If you're still watching all the way up till this part and you like my content, be sure to like and sub because I am very new to the content creation scene and it will help me out greatly. Thank you and peace.